You trust these brands. You see them on every corner, every highway exit, every commercial break. But behind the logos and dollar menus, some of America's biggest fast food chains are quietly dying. Mass closures accelerating month after month. Bankrupt franchisees losing everything. Stocks in freefall wiping out retirement savings. Today, we are exposing 10 fast food chains about to collapse, and why your job, your investments, or your retirement savings could be caught in the fallout. The warning signs are everywhere if you know where to look. Coming in at number 10, we have Subway. Once upon a time, Subway was untouchable. The largest restaurant chain in America with over 37,000 locations. More stores than McDonald's. More stores than any other fast food brand on the planet. Subway was everywhere. Every strip mall, every gas station, every Walmart. The foot-long sandwich seemed as American as apple pie. But that empire is crumbling faster than stale bread. Since 2016, Subway has shuttered over 7,000 locations. That is not a typo. 7,000 stores gone. Vanished from strip malls, gas stations, and downtown corners across America. Walk through any mid-sized American city, and you will see the ghosts. Empty storefronts with faded foot-long signs. For lease banners covering windows where sandwich artists once worked. Landlords stuck with worthless leases and no tenants in sight. Former franchisees drowning in debt, they took on believing the Eat Fresh promise. The reality was something uglier. Outdated store designs that had not been renovated since the 90s. A menu that barely evolved while competitors innovated with new offerings. Same-store sales that declined year after year, while corporate headquarters kept collecting royalty checks from struggling owners. The franchise model that built Subway into a giant became its poison pill. Too many stores cannibalizing each other's customers. Franchisees competing against each other across the street. 3 Subways within a mile radius fighting for the same lunch crowd. Food costs rising while sandwich prices stayed flat to compete with $5 meal deals at every competitor. The math stopped working. Owners who invested their life savings found themselves working 80-hour weeks just to break even. Some report losing over $200,000 before walking away. Dreams of being their own boss transformed into nightmares of unpaid bills and family strain. When a private equity firm acquired Subway in 2023 for around $9.6 billion, some hoped it signaled a turnaround. Fresh capital, new leadership, strategic vision. Instead, closures accelerated. The new ownership demanded profitability above all else. Struggling stores got the axe. Corporate pushed aggressive renovation requirements that franchisees could not afford. Store owners who had weathered decades of challenges suddenly faced ultimatums. Renovate to new standards or close. Many chose to close rather than spend money they did not have on a brand losing relevance daily. The brand that once symbolized affordable, healthier fast food now symbolizes corporate overreach and franchisee abandonment. If you work at a Subway location with declining traffic, the warning signs are everywhere. If you invested in franchise opportunities believing the brand was recession-proof, the 7,000 closed locations tell a different story. What happens when the next 7,000 close? How many more families lose everything? At number 9, we have Boston Market. Remember when Boston Market promised to revolutionize American dining? Rotisserie chicken. Comfort food prepared fresh. A healthier alternative to fried fast food. The chain once operated over 1,100 locations across the country. Families packed into those restaurants on weeknights, grabbing mashed potatoes and cornbread after soccer practice. Office workers stopped in for quick lunches. The vision of home-cooked meals without the cooking seemed brilliant. That vision has collapsed into something almost unrecognizable. Today, Boston Market operates fewer than 300 locations. Some reports suggest the number is even lower and declining weekly. The fall has been brutal and sudden. Stores shuttering overnight with no warning to employees or customers. Workers showing up for their shifts only to find locked doors and taped notices. No final paychecks, no explanations, no gratitude for years of service. Just silence from a corporate office drowning in debt and dysfunction. The parent company's financial troubles have been an open secret for years. Debt piling up to over $300 million. Suppliers going unpaid for months at a time. Landlords filing lawsuits over missed rent in state after state. In some markets, entire regions went dark within weeks. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Florida, Ohio, Texas. Locations that had served communities for decades simply ceased to exist. One day open, the next day gone. Former employees have shared horror stories online. Managers finding out about closures the same moment customers did. No advance notice. No time to prepare. Paychecks bouncing when deposited. Health insurance disappearing without notice, leaving families scrambling for coverage. Workers left explaining sudden gaps in employment to future employers. The human cost of corporate financial mismanagement rarely makes headlines, but it destroys lives and families and futures. For workers who depended on those jobs, the collapse was devastating. No severance packages, no transition assistance, no job placement help, just unemployment lines and uncertainty and fear. And the closures keep coming. If you work at a Boston market today, you might want to have a backup plan ready. The rotisserie chicken chain that once promised comfort food dominance is now fighting for survival. The odds do not look good. Will yours be the next location to vanish overnight without warning? Now at number 8, we have Shake Shack. Wait, you might be thinking, Shake Shack? The trendy burger joint with hour-long lines? The stock market darling that went public to massive fanfare? Yes, that's Shake Shack. And the numbers tell a story the marketing department would rather you not hear. Shake Shack's stock has collapsed over 70% from its all-time highs. 70%. For investors who bought into the premium burger hype, that represents real money lost. Retirement accounts diminished. College funds shrunk. The promise of endless growth that justified sky-high valuations has evaporated. Shareholders who believed the analysts watched billions in market value disappear. The problem is simple math that Wall Street ignored for too long. Shake Shack's labor costs are brutal. The company prides itself on paying above minimum wage. Admirable, perhaps, but devastating to margins when combined with premium ingredient costs and expensive urban real estate. A Shake Shack burger costs more to make than competitors, sells for more to customers, and still struggles to generate consistent profits. Operating margins hover around 5% while competitors manage double digits. Expansion plans that once seemed aggressive now look reckless. New locations opening before existing ones proved profitable. Each new store diluting the exclusivity that made Shake Shack special in the first place. When you can find one in every airport and suburban mall, the lines get shorter. The buzz fades. The premium pricing feels less justified. That $12 burger tastes the same, whether you waited an hour or walked right up. The company burned through cash chasing growth. Real estate commitments locked in at peak prices. Lease obligations stretching years into an uncertain future. When same-store sales flatten and new locations underperform, the math turns toxic fast. Shake Shack is not profitable enough to justify its expansion, but it is too committed to expansion to become profitable. If your retirement fund holds restaurant stocks, Shake Shack's trajectory should concern you. The company is not collapsing tomorrow, but the cracks in the premium burger foundation are widening. And in a recession, when consumers trade down from $12 burgers to value menus, those cracks could become chasms. How safe is your portfolio? If this helps you understand what is really happening in the economy, hit subscribe. It is free, and it means you will never miss these breakdowns. Number 7 takes us to Applebee's. The neighborhood grill that built itself on middle-class dining is watching that middle class disappear. Applebee's was never trying to be fancy. That was the point. Affordable appetizers, 2 for $20 meal deals. A place where families could celebrate birthdays without breaking the bank. But that core customer is getting squeezed from every direction. Over 150 locations have closed in recent years. Same-store traffic keeps declining as families cut back on eating out. The math is brutal. When grocery prices spike and rent comes due, that $15 burger at Applebee's becomes a luxury. The 2 for $20 deal becomes a $20 expense that stays in the checking account instead. Franchisees are caught in a vice, rising minimum wages in state after state. California alone pushed hourly wages to $20 for fast food workers. Food costs that climbed 30% in some categories since 2020. Utility bills through the roof after energy price spikes. Meanwhile, corporate headquarters keeps demanding renovations, new menu items, marketing campaigns, technology upgrades. The franchise fees keep flowing upward, while profits evaporate at the store level. The target demographic is struggling. Middle-income families that once dined at Applebee's weekly now budget monthly visits or skip entirely. Credit card debt has hit record highs. Savings rates have plummeted. When consumers make choices, the neighborhood grill gets cut first. Groceries and gas come before boneless wings and loaded potato skins. The friendly commercials hide a chain fighting for survival. Those neighborhood grills are becoming neighborhood ghosts. Parking lots that used to fill up on Friday nights now sit half empty. Servers who used to work full schedules now fight for limited shifts. Experienced managers leaving for more stable industries. And the closures keep accelerating as franchisees run out of runway and patience. How long before your local Applebee's goes dark? At number 6, we find Red Lobster. This one already fell. Red Lobster filed for bankruptcy in 2024. Hundreds of locations closed permanently. The chain that introduced millions of Americans to seafood dining is now a cautionary tale of corporate mismanagement and promotional disasters. Remember the endless shrimp promotion that went viral? Social media celebrated customers gaming the system, eating plate after plate of shrimp until they got their money's worth. Content creators filmed themselves ordering endless rounds. The hashtags exploded. What seemed like a marketing win was actually a financial catastrophe. That single promotion cost the company over $11 million in just one quarter. Executives who approved it watched margins collapse in real time. But endless shrimp was just the final blow. Years of underinvestment had already weakened the foundation. Restaurants that had not been renovated in decades felt tired and dated. Menus that failed to evolve with changing tastes. A casual dining format that felt increasingly irrelevant to younger consumers, who preferred fast casual alternatives. Food quality complaints mounted. Service standards slipped. The brand became a punchline before it became a bankruptcy filing. The private equity ownership made everything worse. Real estate deals stripped assets from the operating company. Lease obligations ballooned. Debt piled up while reinvestment stalled. The classic private equity playbook of extraction over investment left Red Lobster hollowed out and fragile. When bankruptcy hit, the devastation was swift. Employees lost jobs overnight across hundreds of locations. Some showed up to padlocked doors with no notice. Landlords found themselves with empty buildings in strip malls across America. Suppliers who extended credit got pennies on the dollar in bankruptcy proceedings. For anyone who thought iconic American brands were recession-proof, Red Lobster proved that wrong. Brand recognition means nothing when the balance sheet bleeds red and the lobster tanks sit empty. Most people have no idea how fast these closures are happening. But the next one on our list might hit closer to home than you expect. These are not backwater chains. They are brands with famous names and national reputations. Number 5 is TGI Fridays, another casual dining giant on life support. TGI Fridays filed for bankruptcy protection, and over 80 locations shut down in a single wave. The chain that defined 1990s dining has become a relic, unable to compete with fast casual upstarts and delivery apps that changed how Americans eat. Walk into a TGI Fridays today, and you might feel the desperation. The same memorabilia on the walls from 2 decades ago. Faded movie posters and dusty sports equipment. Menus that feel frozen in time. A dining experience that younger consumers have largely abandoned. The energy that once made Fridays feel like a party has given way to empty booths and skeleton crews. The party at Fridays is officially over, and the hangover is brutal. The business model never adapted. When Chipotle and Panera revolutionized fast casual dining, TGI Fridays stayed stuck in its 1990s format. When DoorDash and Uber Eats changed delivery expectations, Fridays struggled to compete. The food did not travel. Well, the experience did not translate. Customers who once gathered at Fridays for the atmosphere had no reason to order delivery from a chain with no atmosphere to export. Workers bore the brunt of the collapse. Sudden closures with minimal warning. Years of service ending with a locked door and a form letter. Franchisees left holding worthless leases they cannot escape. The bankruptcy process grinds forward while livelihoods hang in the balance. Severance promises that may never materialize. Healthcare benefits that vanished overnight. Retirement contributions sitting in limbo. For communities that relied on these restaurants as gathering places and employers, the closures leave holes that are hard to fill. A TGI Fridays closing does not just mean one less place to grab potato skins. It means servers, cooks, hosts, and managers suddenly competing for scarce jobs in an industry already oversaturated with displaced workers. What happens when the music stops and everyone scrambles for chairs? Stick around. The solution is coming. But first, the chain's getting hit even harder. Coming in at number 4 is Denny's. America's Diner is dimming the lights. The stock price has collapsed over 60% in the past year. 150 underperforming locations targeted for closure. The 24-hour promise that built the brand is disappearing as most locations now close overnight due to staffing shortages and rising costs. Denny's occupied a unique space in American culture. The place you went after concerts. The refuge for night shift workers grabbing breakfast at 2 in the morning. The diner where travelers could always find hot coffee and a familiar menu at any hour. First responders stopping in after long shifts. College students cramming before finals. Truck drivers needing a break from the road. That reliability is eroding fast. Operating a 24-hour restaurant was never cheap, but it used to be manageable. Now the math is impossible. Overnight, shifts require premium wages that the margins cannot support. Some locations report paying time and a half for overnight hours, and still cannot find reliable staff. Security concerns in some locations make late-night operations risky. Vandalism incidents spiking. Energy costs to keep those lights on and grills hot add up fast. Every hour open costs money, whether customers show up or not. The closures target exactly the locations you would expect. Older buildings in declining neighborhoods. Stores where traffic dropped below sustainable levels. Locations where overnight operations generated more costs than revenue. For late shift workers who depended on those overnight jobs, the American diner dream is fading. And for anyone who assumed Denny's would always be there, the 60% stock collapse tells a different story. The company's debt load compounds the pressure. Interest payments consuming cash that could fund renovations. Lease obligations stretching into an uncertain future. Franchisees watching equity evaporate as brand value declines. The Grand Slam that once symbolized American value dining now symbolizes a struggling chain searching for relevance. Will your local Denny's survive? What state do you live in? Drop it below. I want to know how these closures are affecting your community. At number 3, we have Papa John's. The pizza wars have casualties, and Papa John's is bleeding. Scandal-plagued and struggling to recover, the chain cannot seem to escape its own shadow. Same-store sales declining quarter after quarter. Franchisees reporting razor-thin margins as cheese costs spike and labor expenses climb. The better ingredients promise rings hollow when the profit margins vanish. What good are better ingredients if no one can afford to keep the ovens running? The delivery wars made everything worse. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. These platforms promised to expand reach but actually cannibalized profits. Every order through a third-party app costs money that used to stay in franchise pockets. Commission rates reaching 30% on some platforms. 30% of an order gone before the pizza leaves the oven. Customers who once called the store directly now tap an app that takes a massive cut of every transaction. The convenience consumers love is killing the margins franchisees depend on. Franchisees who bought into the comeback hype are watching their investments shrink. The pizza business runs on volume and efficiency. When competitors offer cheaper pies and delivery apps extract fees from every order, the numbers stop working. Stores that seemed profitable on paper struggle to survive in practice. Some franchisees report working 70-hour weeks while their stores lose money. Owners who took out second mortgages to buy franchise rights now wonder if they will ever see returns. The corporate scandals created additional headwinds. Rebuilding brand reputation takes years and hundreds of millions in marketing. The company spent heavily on celebrity endorsements and new campaigns. Shaquille O'Neal, new taglines, fresh commercials. Returns have been disappointing. Meanwhile, Domino's keeps innovating with technology and delivery tracking. Little Caesars keeps undercutting on price with hot and ready. And Papa John's keeps fighting for relevance in a market that has moved on and moved past the controversies without forgiving them. The cheese cost crisis hit Papa John's harder than most. When cheese prices spiked over 30%, pizza chains with thin margins felt immediate pain. Papa John's could not raise prices enough without losing customers to cheaper alternatives, could not absorb the costs without destroying profitability. Franchisees found themselves choosing between ingredient quality and staying open. Pizza Hut owns casual dining. Domino's owns technology and delivery speed. Little Caesars owns value. Where does Papa John's fit? That question haunts every strategic planning meeting and keeps franchisees up at night. A brand without a clear position is a brand without a future. Are you still ordering Papa John's? Ever noticed how these chains keep struggling but never seem to fix the real problem? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Number 2 brings us to MOD Pizza. The build-your-own pizza chain that raised hundreds of millions in funding is now closing stores and laying off workers. Over 40 locations shuttered. Corporate leadership shakeups. The fast casual revolution they promised investors has stalled. The crust is crumbling faster than anyone expected. Mod Pizza represented everything venture capitalists loved about the 2010s food scene. Customization, fast casual format, millennial appeal. The company raised over $400 million from investors convinced it would become the next Chipotle of pizza. Store counts exploded. Expansion happened at breakneck speed, but revenues never matched the ambitions. The growth story that attracted capital became a cautionary tale about expansion without profitability. The unit economics never worked at scale. Each MOD Pizza location requires significant labor to handle the customization model. Unlike Domino's efficient assembly line, MOD's approach demands more hands at every station. Employees working the line, employees managing toppings, employees handling the oven, employees at the register. When minimum wages rose and labor markets tightened, the model fractured. Stores that worked in low-cost markets failed in expensive ones. Cities that seemed like slam dunks became money pits. The pandemic temporarily masked the problems. Delivery demand spiked. Government assistance kept struggling locations afloat. PPP loans covered payroll. Customer traffic remained steady as people sought comfort food during lockdowns. When normal returned, the cracks emerged. Customers who tried delivery went back to Domino's for speed and convenience. In-person diners returned to habits formed before MOD existed. The novelty wore off. The lines shortened. The math turned brutal. Franchise owners who bought into the hype face impossible choices. Royalty fees to corporate. Lease obligations locked in at peak expansion prices. Equipment costs specific to the MOD format that have no resale value elsewhere. Walking away means losing everything. Staying means losing money slowly. Some have filed lawsuits alleging misrepresentation. Others have simply closed doors and disappeared into the night. The venture capital money is gone. The expansion plans are dead. Leadership has turned over multiple times as the company searches for answers that may not exist. What remains is a shrinking chain with too many locations, too much debt, and too little path to profitability. For anyone who bought into the fast casual pizza revolution, MOD Pizza shows how quickly revolutionary becomes insolvent. When will the next round of closures hit? Who gets blindsided next? You will not believe what the next one is hiding. The chain everyone thinks is thriving sits at number 1. And now we arrive at number 1. This might shock you because everyone thinks this chain is thriving. Wendy's? Yes, Wendy's. The chain with the sassy Twitter account, the square patties and frosty desserts. The brand that seemed to crack the code on social media marketing while competitors struggled. Look closer, and the cracks are forming. The foundation is weaker than the marketing suggests. Behind the clever tweets and viral moments, the numbers tell a different story. The stock has dropped significantly from its highs, share price down over 30% from peak levels. Billions in market value evaporated. Franchisee complaints about corporate fees are mounting publicly in ways rarely seen in the industry. Operators who usually stay silent are speaking out. The surge pricing controversy damaged consumer trust in ways that are still playing out months later. When Wendy's floated the idea of charging more during busy periods, the backlash was swift and brutal. The policy retreated, but the reputation damage lingered. Consumers remember being told they might pay more for a lunchtime burger than a late afternoon one. That memory does not fade quickly. The breakfast launch that was supposed to revolutionize the brand underperformed expectations dramatically. Wendy's spent hundreds of millions convincing America to think of them for morning meals, television campaigns saturating airwaves, menu development requiring years of testing, kitchen equipment upgrades at thousands of locations, store renovations to accommodate breakfast traffic, training programs for staff unfamiliar with morning rushes. The returns have been disappointing. Same-store traffic remains flat while costs continue climbing. The breakfast bet has not paid off. The investment may never return. Franchisees feel squeezed from multiple directions. Corporate fees that seem disconnected from store-level profitability. Mandatory renovations that drain capital from owners already stretched thin. Technology investments that promise efficiency but deliver complexity and additional monthly costs. App development, ordering kiosks, digital menu boards, loyalty programs requiring constant maintenance. The franchise relationship that should be a partnership increasingly feels adversarial. Some franchisees have organized to push back. Others have quietly sold locations and exited the system while they still could. The competitive pressure never stops. McDonald's dominates breakfast and value. Burger King matches promotions dollar for dollar. Regional chains steal market share in key markets. Five Guys owns the premium space. Chick-fil-A draws customers with service and consistency. In-N-Out maintains cult following on the West Coast. Where does Wendy's fit when every competitor has a clearer identity and stronger execution? What differentiates a Wendy's burger enough to justify driving past competitors? Wendy's is not collapsing tomorrow. The brand has resources. The infrastructure remains massive. Thousands of locations still operate profitably. But for workers, investors, and franchise owners counting on stability, the cracks should worry you. When the next recession hits and consumers pull back from fast food spending, those cracks could widen fast. The social media cleverness that masks the financial reality will not save jobs or protect investments. A funny tweet does not pay the bills when margins collapse. Viral moments do not cover rent when traffic declines. Ask any worker at the chains we already discussed. These brands seem untouchable until they are not. You watched them your whole life. Trusted them with your lunch breaks, your road trip stops, your quick dinners after long days. But behind every logo is a balance sheet. Behind every commercial is a profit and loss statement. And right now, those numbers are flashing warnings that most consumers never see. The warning: signs are clear for anyone willing to look. The closures will continue. Some of these chains will find ways to survive, reinventing themselves for a changed market. Others will join the growing list of American brands that seemed permanent until they were not. Thousands of workers will lose jobs they thought were secure. Franchisees will lose life savings invested over decades. Investors will lose retirement funds built over careers. Communities will lose gathering places that defined neighborhoods for generations. The question is not whether more fast food chains will struggle. The question is which ones and how quickly the collapses will come. The dominoes are already falling. The smart play is paying attention before the collapse happens, understanding the warning signs before they affect your paycheck or your portfolio. Knowledge is protection. Awareness is defense. Information is power. If you work at any of these chains, start thinking about your backup plan now. Do not wait until you show up to locked doors and taped notices. If you invest in restaurant stocks, take a hard look at the fundamentals behind the marketing. Ask the hard questions. If you are considering franchise ownership, Research beyond the glossy brochures and optimistic projections. Talk to current and former franchisees. The stories you heard today are not isolated incidents. They are patterns, and patterns have a way of repeating when no one is paying attention. Subscribe now so you never get blindsided again.